Browns fans, if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to our Cleveland Browns report here. We are knocking on the door of 3,300. Be the one that gets us across that great milestone. We're giving you guys new videos all the time, talking about the latest Browns news, rumors, recaps, previews. You name it, we got it for you. So go ahead and subscribe today. On today's Cleveland Browns report, we're going to talk about the latest Odell Beckham Jr. saga, extravaganza, whatever you want to call it, going on in Cleveland right now, because it continues to spiral. A good word? I think spiral kind of sums it up pretty well, if you ask me, as for day number 2 in a row, OBJ is not at the Browns practice facility, and it's not his choice either. Here's what Brad Stainbrook had to say. Also, quick shout out to Brad, because he's been fighting Twitter to get verified. I've been following along all year long, so shout out to you, Brad. Hopefully we can get that done one day. But no new update with Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. as of now. Team excused him for the second day in a row, and negotiations continue between GM Andrew Berry and Odell's representatives. To me, this sounds like they're trying to find some kind of compromise, or if OBJ is asking to be released and whether or not that will be granted. I'm not in the room. I'm not in on these phone calls. As much as I would like to be in on, just group me in, right? Just add me to the call, get me in on the Zoom meeting. Let's figure it out together so I can get the news to you guys as soon as possible. But 2 days in a row, OBJ is not at practice. Again, not his choice, really, it sounds like. It's not like the Browns are sending him home. They just don't want to deal with this distraction. I don't think that's exactly fair to OBJ. All he's trying to do is go to work. However, having said all that, I want to ask this question to you guys. Should the Browns release OBJ? I asked this in my last video. We're going to ask it again because the situation continues to evolve and kind of not change directions, but continue going down a bad path, in my opinion. Type C for cut or K for keep. Personally, keep. You figure it out, okay? You're grown men. This is work. This is a profession. You go to your jobs. If you have differences with people, you figure it out. You don't lose your job or go to another job because of a disagreement most times. If it's really that toxic and volatile, did I get that right? Whatever the word is, then you have other, questions to ask. But I think this is a little soft in my opinion. You got there's a half a football season left. He's your best wide receiver, and you're going to cut him because it's awkward or it's tough and it's strenuous? No, you figure it out. You put him in a room, and you have him talk it out, hug it out, whatever they got to do, and get over it, at least for the rest of the season. And then in the offseason, do what you want. Trade, cut, I don't care. You got a bunch of options then. But figure it out for the rest of the season. And I think Baker's on the same page, too. Here's what Baker had to say, talking to some reporters earlier. If he's back, we will work through it. I can put my ego aside. He would later say, I think any sort of conversation could go a long way. So to me, it looks like Baker wants to work it out, okay? He wants to find a way to make this happen because Baker's a smart guy. He's looking at 2 things right now. The Browns are 4-4, and his contract extension continues to be in limbo. So he needs all the help he can get. And if that means figuring out the OBJ and doing his end of the deal of getting the ball to him, because I watched that 11-minute video his dad, Odell Beckham Sr. shared. There's a lot of mishaps on Baker's fault. Some of the throws, I don't know, some of the nitpicky, I thought was a little too nitpicky. But as a whole, I think there's obviously things Baker can do better, and Baker knows that. Now it's about Stefanski, Baker, and OBJ sitting down and working it out. So a couple of the Browns players were asked about this saga, and I thought this was the most interesting one at all. It's from an anonymous player. They kept their identity secret. They said he does nothing. He talks to no one. He's just got a malcontent attitude. Don't know what player said this, but that's a pretty big statement to say. It was in a NFL.com article from Kevin Patra. You guys can go check it out. But what I want to know from you, though, is who said it? Who do you think on the Browns said this? Let's have a little fun. Let's go back to high school and start gossiping a little, because that's what we have to work with right now. A lot of players were in support of OBJ. John Johnson had a lot of encouraging things to say about OBJ. I think Baker did as well. But one player, not so much. So let me know who you think said this as we switch gears, because if this saga cannot be figured out, I think we got to be Boy Scouts here. We got to be prepared for if Odell Beckham Jr. is released, which should not be groundbreaking news if that happens. It's going to be sad news in my opinion. But if it does happen, we're going to talk about, let's talk about some possible replacements, okay? Who's out there right now? Who could the Browns go and get if they wanted to go down that route, too? I think this Browns wide receiver room can sustain without OBJ. They did last year, and they've got a couple guys in the practice squad that could do it. So let's check out the wide receiver depth chart here. Before we start to look out of house, let's check out in-house. So we got OBJ there. If he's out, then everyone slides over a column. You get Anthony Schwartz up to wide receiver 4. Jarvis, DPJ, Higgins, and Schwartz, they can manage on their own. They did without OBJ for the first chunk of the season. They did without OBJ for most of last season. They can manage on their own. Then you have Jamarcus Bradley and JoJo Natson on the practice squad. So that's what the Browns wide receiver depth chart says. But what I want to know from you guys, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this the pinned comment. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, go on down to the comment section, reply, and come back after the ad is over. Do the Browns need to sign a wide receiver? Type S for sign or P for pass. Can the Browns stick with what they have in-house, or do you think it's not enough? And if OBJ is released, they need to go check out free agency because the NFL trade deadline passed. There's no trading for anyone. That is out the window. So they got to go and find someone to bring in. Let me know what you're thinking down below. So if they wanted to go out of house and they wanted to bring someone in, how about this name right here, DeSean Jackson? He was recently released from the LA Rams. His role with the Rams is not what he wanted it to be. So he asked to be traded. They said sure. Couldn't find a trade partner, so they released him. And so now he's a free agent. He can sign anywhere. Personally, I thought it was a dumb move for DeSean. He's been in the league for quite some time. How about you stick on a 7-1 team that looks like they're going to the Super Bowl at the rate they're going? But he wants to be a wide receiver, 1, 2, or 3 somewhere, and he was not in L.A. DeSean's career, we all know how great it is, okay? Over 10,000 yards, 57 touchdowns. He's so explosive. He's such a deep threat nightmare for opposing defenses. But that's kind of old DeSean Jackson. We haven't seen that DeSean for quite some time. But let's open it up, make it a two-way conversation again. Would you want DeSean Jackson? Type Y for yes or N for no. Let me know if you'd want to sign DeSean Jackson. Before we get to our next person, how about you guys check out BetUS, our sportsbook partner, where they hook you up with a 125% deposit bonus. I don't know if you want to bet on the Browns just yet this week. Let's see how they play before we start putting some cheddar on them against the Bengals. But there's plenty of other great bets going on over at BetUS, like, say, I don't know, how about if Myles Garrett to win defensive MVP. All you got to do is go to the link at the bottom of your screen and use that promo code Browns125. Next person up, John Brown. And by the way, this is not in any particular order, this list right here, but just some names I kind of put together. So John Brown had a great career to start off in Arizona. Loved what I saw from him in Buffalo. Then he wanted to go to Vegas, and then something didn't work in Vegas. He was signed to a nice contract. It was over $3 million back in like March. And then he got cut by the Raiders before the season even started. Had a brief stint with the Broncos a couple weeks ago. Appeared in just 2 games, got 1 target, never caught a ball, and he's back on the street looking for a job. So John Brown could make some sense to me. He's a good deep threat kind of guy, just like DeSean Jackson. Now let's go to Anthony Miller, because this is a name that is a little more, recent, right? The other 2 guys are a little past their prime. Anthony Miller very much in his prime. Right now, he's on the Steelers practice squad. He's had a interesting journey. Was a second-round pick for the Chicago Bears a couple years ago. Had some great moments for Chicago. They ultimately traded him to the Houston Texans this season before the season started. Didn't last long there. Got cut, and then he was picked up by the Steelers, and now he's on their practice squad. But if you remember what Anthony Miller did in Chicago, that's all right. If you don't, I got his stats right here. You see, he's got some pretty great numbers for the last 3 seasons. 2018, his first year, 7 touchdowns. He's always been a fun kind of slot receiver, and OBJ is more of an out-wide kind of guy, but you get talent in where you can if you're going to lose your wide receiver number 1 anyway. So I think Anthony Miller could make some sense to me if the Browns wanted to pick someone up to try and not replace OBJ, but get another body in that wide receiver. Wide receiver number 4, how about Devin Funchess? The Michigan legend. I'm sure Buckeye fans love hearing that name right now. So Funchess hasn't played in quite some time. If you remember, he was with the Green Bay Packers last season and then opted out due to COVID-19. Then got some injury-riddled problems to start 2021, ultimately was released, and so now he hasn't played since 2019, back when he was with Indianapolis for one season. Before that, he was with the Carolina Panthers for a couple of years. But through 5 seasons, I think the numbers reflect a player that is currently not on a team. It's nothing that's going to jump out and make you want to sign him immediately, but they're not atrocious numbers by any means. So I think Devin Funchess is a good name to toss in the mix here. Before we get to the final guy here, guys, go ahead and predict the score here for the Browns-Bengals Week 9 matchup. Let me know what you're thinking down below. It's a bit of a coin flip game to me. I'm not gonna give my score prediction just yet. I'll do it at the end of the video. So let's add this in at the end of the video, producer Coop. I'll give my score prediction then. But let me know what you're thinking right now for these two AFC North rivals. My final OBJ replacement, Golden Tate. Probably the most tenured name here. I think overall as a career, outside of DeSean Jackson, probably the most complete career we've seen so far. He's a veteran. He was with Seattle for quite some time. Had some great years in Detroit with the Lions. So years with the Giants. Now he's on the street, and last year, 12 games, 2 touchdowns. Not bad numbers by any means. So I think Golden Tate could make sense again. We're in November right now. There's not going to be a beautiful crop of wide receivers out there who are waiting to be signed. You are playing with what you can get at the moment. So before we wrap up the video, I want to pose this one more question to you guys. Who's your favorite player from this list? All the players here, who is the guy that you would love to see in brown and orange if the Browns do end up releasing OBJ? I think for me it's Anthony Miller, because at least he's the youngest and he's a proven guy. It's just off the field issues and kind of maybe locker room issues that derailed his career, a former second-round pick. And again, I don't know if you want a guy like that and a personality like that to replace Odell Beckham Jr., who I just don't know if he meshed very well with the Browns locker room. So before we get to my score prediction, though, go ahead and subscribe right now if you have not already. Join the channel, join the family. We're giving you guys tons of great Browns news and rumors all season long. I'll give you my score prediction for Week 9 in just a second. But make sure you go over and hit that big red sub button. Make it great and join the channel. And also, if you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter, @MatthewPD. I'm always talking Browns news and rumors. Tons of great stuff. I'm going to post my Week 9 betting odds. But to wrap up the video, Week 9, Browns-Bengals, I'm going to go with Cleveland. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns. I think it's a must-win game. They are hungrier. They need it more. They'll put the distractions behind. Give me the Browns over the Bengals, 27-20.